Alright, so the Mediterranean triad was the three things that everyone in the Mediterranean ate regardless of class. They were barley, olive oil, and wine. And the barley provided protein, the olive oil provided fat, and wine, everyone loves to drink wine, have a good time. But the wine back then was a lot different. From wine today, it was a lot more just crude, and it wasn't as it doesn't taste as well or as good as it does today. And as the Roman Empire expanded northward, people in Northern Europe, kind of around Germania, Germany, they started drinking beer instead of wine, and they got fat from all the butter.
So the patricians, or the upper class, the way they would show their wealth off between each other and sort of show off was how big of a meal they would have and how much food they would cook. And so they had slaves that would cook the large meals and have these extravagant parties. And some of the more complicated dishes included a dish that had a chicken inside of a duck, inside of a goose, inside of a pork, inside of a cow, and that was all cooked together. Additionally, they'd also add a lot of expensive spices from all the different regions that in the Mediterranean. Some of those spices include cinnamon, pepper, and nutmeg. So our main source for patrician cooking and the food that they ate comes from Apicius in his cookbook. So there's a lot of dishes down in his cookbook. Some of them are ostrich, chicken with plum sauce, and he used a lot of coriander. Also for desserts, he had some of them were stuffed dates and then also a Roman custard. They also had balsam, which was a honeyed wine.
So the plebeians, the lowest class, they were limited to food they grew in dry areas, basically the triad, so barley, wine, olive oil, and then they also grew their own food, vegetables, fruit, basically anything they could get their hands on, because they were poor. They didn't have all the resources that the patricians had. They had to use honey instead of sugar, and they had a lot of fish and snails, which is kind of gross, but it was pretty common in the Mediterranean at the time. So some of the customs that the Romans had for meals and such was showing wealth with throwing large extravagant parties and having large meals at villas. And then also when you go to a party like that, you usually ask for a bag to take some of the food home with you to show the owners that you really appreciated it. And the Romans really liked sauces. It gave the cooks the ability to make dishes more exciting and just taste better overall.
So the Romans had a variety of drinks. For example, they had something called calda, which was warm water and wine laced with spices, which was typically drank in the winter. Again, their wine was always watered down, and they never drank straight wine, so it was very weak. And as the empire expanded, those in Northern Europe tended to drink beer and not wine.